Alright guys, matchups 2 and 3. Matchup 2 features Fraggle Boober, named aptly for the owner of its team, and Fraggle Wembley, named aptly for the owner of his team. I know you guys are all very, very familiar with Fraggle Rock, so I'm sure you understand. Sorry guys, 1 o'clock here. Anyhow, Boober had a very disappointing loss last week and is 0-1. And he's not feeling too excited probably against going against one of the better teams in the league, Fraggle Wembley. But he does have a very, very good young core of players that, to me, is actually one of the middle teams that, with any bit of luck, could make the playoffs, and even if he doesn't, is a very dangerous team to those who are trying to get in the playoffs and he's playing. Quarterback he has is Eli Manning against Tampa Bay. He also could be starting Robert Griffin III against St. Louis, but I actually do agree with starting Eli Manning against Tampa Bay. RG3 going against a lot better defense than the Saints. Eli only put up 12 in week 1 against Dallas. Look for that to really get upgraded. They're projecting him at 18. I'm going to say about 18 as well for Eli against Tampa. Steven Jackson projected at 12 against Washington. Like Washington, solid defense. Steven Jackson will get his carries. He got 8 last week. He'll get about 14 this week. Doug Martin going against Steven Jackson's team. Doug Martin going against Eli Manning's team. The Giants projected at 17 this week. I'm going to keep them around that 10 mark. Demaryius Thomas for for Denver, going against Atlanta in Atlanta. Denver's going to be keeping up with that high-powered offense of Atlanta. Look for some good points from Demaryius Thomas. He definitely has the ability to break it long one with what he showed last week with 22. Give me actually 12 points for Demaryius Thomas this week. Julio Jones really showed that he is the go-to receiver. It's not just a fluke, a week 1 aberration, if you will. Definitely going to be helping Boober out this year and for many years to come. Julio Jones projected at 15 against Denver's defense. I'm going to keep him right about there. I don't think he's going to have that big 24-point game. He was helped out by 2 of the best defensive players for for KC being out last week, especially Flowers, who's their #1 corner. Denver does not have that issue, but he's still going to get his touches. Give him about 14 points. Pierre Garçon, 21 points last week, going against St. Louis defense. He's going to struggle a little bit more. He's not going to get that gigantic break. They're projecting him at 12. I'm going to say 6. Jacob Tamme for Denver going against Atlanta. Like Tamme this week, I'm going to say right around what he did last week at 10. Bills defense against KC, -8 last week. He's going against KC. KC can score. I'm not going to give him minus points, but I'm only going to give him 1 or 2. Maybe picking up a defense in Waiverland might be a good idea. I could tell you who I really like other than the Patriots that I picked up, but unfortunately I just can't remember for some reason during this matchup. Kicker going against Baltimore. You got to like a kicker going against Baltimore. Usually Baltimore's not going to let you into the end zone that many times. 9 points sounds just about right for me with Alex. Wembley. Tom Brady is going against Arizona. He had a ho-hum 17 points last week, and that was with a little bit of stolen thunder from the defense scoring touchdown and 2 touchdowns by the running back. Not going to happen too many times in Patriots land. I understand they're trying to get a little bit more of a rushing game going on, as how many times can you lose Super Bowl before you learn better, right? Projected at 23 against Arizona. I'm thinking he's going to actually be right around there, 21, 22, 23 area. Frank Gore, love him this week against Detroit. You can definitely see that they're going to be using him a lot like they did last year. 19 last week. Detroit has a little bit better run defense, but if they're spreading them out a lot more in San Francisco, 15 sounds just about right for me for Frank Gore this week. Ray Rice going against Philly, 20 points last week. I think he's going to be hovering around that 20 points all year long. Ray Rice sure looks good, and that was 20 points without even playing the fourth quarter. So give him about 20. Adrian Peterson, God, I sat you last week. I apologize. Your coach has told me something different. You know, well, what do you want me to do? So he got 20 last week. He's going against Indy. Give him 28 in his second week back off an ACL tear. I know you guys think I'm crazy about it, and it's just because it's my team. But you gotta love a running back going against Indianapolis, right? Right? Jeremy Maclin, we're gonna see how he's doing. Right now, he's slow, living in practice a little bit, but supposedly his status for the game is not going to be hampered with a hip pointer injury. They're projecting him at 12 if he plays. I think he's going to get about 12 to 15. If he doesn't, it's going to be either Randy Moss filling in or Malcolm Floyd. Both of them, I think, are going to hover around that 8 or 9 point area. So not too much of a fall off, I would hope. And then Victor Cruz, who had a not a very good game with only 5 points last week. And would have had at least one more touchdown or 6 more points with a touchdown if it wasn't for a blatant, and I mean blatant pass interference call that was not called. Didn't make me happy, especially once I figured out it was still Victor Cruz. But what are you going to do? Victor Cruz gets 12 this week, projected at 16. Jimmy Graham against Carolina's defense. You got to love that. Even though New Orleans didn't play very well last week, Jimmy Graham still got his. He's projected at 14. Give him 18. Patriot defense against Arizona. Didn't want to play Seattle's this week just because they're going against a good Cowboys defense or offense, even though they're prone to turnovers. So I'm hoping for the steady points and turnovers because Patriots will be scoring a lot against Arizona, and with either Kolb, who turns the ball over a lot, or Skeleton, who turns the ball over a lot. So give me about 5 or 6 points for the Patriots. Just don't want them to hurt me. And then David Akers, projected at 6 against Detroit. Got to give him more points. David Akers, who got 6, 63-yarder last week. He is going to get 9 points. ESPN has this as not a blowout, actually a pretty close match. They have Wembley being favored 127 to 113 for Boober. I think it's going to be about 120 for Wembley and about 105 for Boober. Still a good effort by Boober. I just think he's outmatched here, and a lot of Wembley's players are against very not easy, but easy opponents. Next, matchup number 3, we have Barroom Heroes versus Team Dershval. Dershval is 0-1 after a heartbreaking loss and got kind of hurt by Baltimore's defense. And then we have Barroom Heroes, who's 1-0, thankfully to going against the worst player in the league last week. In Ball Me Maybe, or Show Me Your Tits, or TDs, sorry. Anyhow, into the matchup, Michael Vick projected at 19, got 15 last week, a lot of turnovers going against a Baltimore defense. I don't know how they're projecting him at 19 points against a Baltimore defense. Give me only 12 points for Michael Vick in week 2. Marshawn Lynch, didn't know if he was going to play last week. He did. Ted picked up his handcuff. Of course, it was my fault, even though, because I probably said it on one of the videos. And since I am the only fantasy person out here giving advice about, you know, who to pick up and stuff, probably my fault. So, sorry. Marshawn Lynch going to be starting Dallas defense. Good defense. Marshawn Lynch still a beast. Look for him to get his first score in 14 points. Michael Turner not used a lot. They're going to be using Jacquizz Rodgers in a pretty like 50-50 split. He got 3 points last week. Don't see it getting that projected 13. Give him 7 points this week. A little bit more yards, no touchdowns. Eric Decker from Denver. Decker, the one plus thing that you saw, he didn't get a lot of points last week with only 5. But he was targeted a lot, and he definitely heard his name a lot when watching the Denver game. They're projecting him at 6. Give him 10 for me. Vincent Jackson, only 4 points last week. He's going against Carolina, but it was a really sloppy field. Vincent Jackson will get his against a New York Giants defense who did not look good against Dallas. I think they're still going to be doing better. Projected at 14. Still think it's going to be a little lower. I think it's going to be only 9 for Vincent Jackson this week. Some yardage, no touchdowns. Lance Moore from New Orleans, 20 points last week. Lance Moore is definitely benefiting from having a little bit lesser targets on the Saints. Going against the Carolina defense, they're projecting him at only 6. I gotta agree. 6 points seems about right. In New Orleans, other than Jimmy Graham, really, one person scores big one week, the next person the next week. I think it's actually going to be Colston and Graham again this week. Brandon Pettigrew, lot of drops. 7 points last week, but he had a lot of drops. It might shake some confidence in Stafford, but he is going against San Francisco's defense. Look for Stafford to get rid of the ball a little bit earlier, and that's going to be looking good for Pettigrew. Finley got 10 points against them last week. Pettigrew will get only 6 this week against them. Texans defense against Jacksonville. You gotta love Texans defense against Jacksonville. They're projected to get 8. Give me 12 for the Texans. Matt Bryan, 9 points. Denver defense sounds about right to me. Team Dershfall, who is favored 109 to 99, just so you guys know. I usually try to say in the beginning. I just kind of forgot. Aaron Rodgers, gotta love Rodgers. Chicago defense, not as good as the 49ers defense, and he put up 22 against the Niners, and the Bears will be scoring, so he will have to keep up. He won't have to come back probably from last week. I see him beating the Bears this week, but he's going to have to score with the Bears, so give him 26 points. Matt Forte, love Matt Forte, and against that holy as crap Green Bay defense, I'm seeing a few long touchdown runs. Give me 29 for Matt Forte this week, projected at 16. Hopefully he finds the end zone a little bit. Darren Sproles against Carolina, like Sproles this week. His matchup against Carolina, 12 sounds just about right for me. Marquez Colston, I said Colston was going to have a good week for New Orleans this time. 5 last week. Give him 16 this week. Jordy Nelson from Green Bay. He's going to be big Bears fan. He's going to be cheering for Green Bay a little bit because Jordy Nelson, 8 last week. Give him 13. I think it's right on there with the ESPN prediction on that one. Mike Wallace going against New York. Don't like really big play receivers. Mike Wallace projected at 14 against a Jets defense. He's going to be seeing a lot of Revis and Cromartie. Give him only 4 points. Dustin Keller, I hope he gets him out of there. Get a better tight end. Lot of good tight ends out there, Brad. Lot of good tight ends. Dustin Keller has scored 0 touchdowns, I think, in the last 13 out of 15 games or something like that. He's not an end zone threat. Jets defense, like it against Pittsburgh. A lot of sacks against Roethlisberger because he scrambles so much. Garrett Hartley for New Orleans against Carolina. Like him, 9 points. Sounds good. Dershfall, I think he's going to have too much power here. I think he's going to way overpower Barroom Heroes. I think it's going to be about 115 to 86. It's going to be a bitch slap, boys. That's matchups 2 and 3. See you guys for 4 and 5.